The third time I watched that security footage, I wasn't even mad anymore. I was impressed, like, wow, Patricia, you really woke up at sunrise and chose felony. My coffee was going cold in my hand, and there she was on my screen, strutting up my driveway at 7 in the morning like she paid my mortgage, grabbing my $350 telescoping roof rake, and walking off with it like she'd just reclaimed stolen government property. And the wildest part? She had a clipboard. A clipboard. Like that thing makes stealing legal. That was my official welcome to Meadowbrook Springs in Scottsdale, Arizona, an HOA neighborhood where the palm trees are trimmed like they're in the military, and the rules are treated like scripture, except only one person gets to interpret them, and her name was Patricia Cunningham. My name's Sebastian Jennings, I'm 34, I write software for a living, and 3 months before this happened, I signed those closing documents thinking I'd bought peace and quiet, a nice little planned community, maybe some polite neighbors, maybe a monthly newsletter with corny jokes. That kind of vibe. Instead, I got Patricia. Patricia was 52, always wearing this bright white visor like she was about to go coach a country club tennis team, and she had this haircut, short, angular, blonde highlights like the HOA issued it with her title. She drove a white Lexus SUV with a custom license plate that read HOA Press, which is the kind of thing you do when you want everyone to know you're not just annoying, you're professionally annoying. And she acted like being HOA president meant she had divine authority over everything. Every blade of grass, every paint color, every porch light, and apparently, every object she decided offended her eyes. The roof rake she stole wasn't some cheap plastic thing from the hardware store, either. I'm talking professional grade, telescoping, aircraft grade aluminum, extends up to 24 feet, because my house has these high roof peaks, and Arizona dust storms will dump debris up there like nature's pranking me. I paid $350 for that thing, because I'm the kind of adult who thinks, if I buy the expensive tool, I will become the kind of person who has his life together. And call me paranoid, I'd hidden a tiny GPS tracker inside the hollow handle before I ever brought it home. Not because I expected a roof rake heist, but because I'd already heard the stories. By week 2 of living there, Patricia had mailed me for violation notices like we were pen pals. Trash cans visible from the street 15 minutes past the allowed time. A garden hose that was the wrong shade of green. A wreath on my door that wasn't pre-approved. I swear to God, if my dog could have read, she would have fined him for blinking too loud. So yeah, I stuck a GPS tracker inside the roof rake handle and sealed it in with epoxy. It was about the size of a quarter, something I'd originally bought to track luggage when I travel. It pinged location every few minutes through an app. I never thought I'd actually need it. Until that morning. I'm sitting there replaying the footage, Patricia walking up my driveway, doing this quick look around like she's in a spy movie, grabbing my roof rake from where it leaned against my garage, and then I open the app and there it is, the little blue dot. For streets over. At her house. Just sitting there like, hey Sebastian, your property is currently being enjoyed by the neighborhood dictator. My first instinct was honestly just disbelief. Like, is she serious? Does she think HOA bylaws are the same thing as the Constitution? Did she confuse president with sheriff? Then the disbelief flipped into that hot, tight feeling in your chest where you're not even thinking about money anymore. It's principle. It's the fact that someone walked onto my property and took something that belonged to me and felt entitled doing it. So I called Frank Rodriguez. Frank lived in Meadowbrook Springs for 8 years, retired firefighter, early 60s, the kind of guy who laughs like life already tried him and lost. He also had zero patience for HOA nonsense, which made him basically my emotional support neighbor. I tell him, Frank, she took my roof rake. He doesn't even pause. He just laughs, this loud, delighted laugh, like I just told him the best joke of the week. Man, he goes, that woman has finally lost it. What are you gonna do? I have GPS proof it's in her house, I said, staring at the blue dot like it was mocking me. I'm calling the police. Oh man, Frank says, and I can hear the grin through the phone. I want front row seats for that. Patricia is always bragging about how she used to work in law enforcement, how she knows all the local cops, how nobody gets away with anything in her neighborhood. This is going to be beautiful. I wasn't as excited as Frank. I had this fear, like if I call the cops on the HOA president, is my life about to become even worse? Am I about to get 10 violations a day? Is she going to measure my driveway with a ruler out of pure revenge? But then I thought, if I let this slide, what's next? My lawnmower? My bike? My mailbox? Where does HOA enforcement end and home invasion begin? So I called Scottsdale PD's non-emergency line, explained the situation. At first, I could hear that skepticism, because Roof Rake doesn't exactly scream crime drama. But when I told her I had video footage and GPS tracking, her tone shifted right away. 30 minutes later, Officer Daniel Martinez shows up. Young guy, maybe 25, still has that new cop energy like he hasn't had his soul crushed by paperwork yet. He sits in my living room, watches the footage on my laptop, and his eyebrows just keep climbing as Patricia strolls off with my rake like she's borrowing sugar. "And you have GPS tracking on this?" he asks, tapping notes into a tablet. I show him my phone. The blue dot is steady at Patricia's address on Desert Willow Court. "I installed it because I'd heard stories," I said. "Didn't think she'd actually be dumb enough to, steal something and keep it at her own house." Officer Martinez gives this little smile, like he's trying not to laugh on duty. "Sir," he goes, "I've dealt with HOA disputes. This is the first time I've seen someone actually stupid enough to steal an item and store it like a trophy." He asks if it has identifying marks. "Oh yeah," I said. "I engraved my initials and phone number inside the handle near the base, SJ, and my number. And the GPS tracker is literally sealed inside the handle. Not exactly something that accidentally happens." He nods and then asks the question that basically decides the whole day. "If we confirm it's yours, do you want to press charges?" I didn't even have to think. Yes. Because this wasn't just annoying. This was a line getting crossed with boots on. He stands up. "All right. I'm going to go have a conversation with Ms. Cunningham. Email me that footage." I send it to his official email and then, because I'm human and I have flaws, I text Frank. "Cops heading to Patricia's house right now." Frank replies instantly. "Taking the dog for a walk." Totally unrelated. 20 minutes pass. Then 40. I keep trying to work, but all I'm doing is refreshing the app and watching that stupid blue dot not move. Finally, Officer Martinez calls. "Mr. Jennings, I'm at Ms. Cunningham's residence. She's claiming she doesn't have your roof rake. Says she has no idea what I'm talking about. Do I have your permission to show her the GPS info?" "Absolutely," I said, and I could feel my jaw tightening. "Show her everything." I hear muffled conversation, and then Patricia's voice cuts through, sharp, higher-pitched, full of outrage like she's being oppressed. "That is impossible. I do not have anyone's roof rake. This is harassment. I'm the HOA president, and this man has been violating community standards since he moved in. He's making false reports to retaliate against me for doing my job." Officer Martinez comes back on, calm but with that edge cops get when someone starts playing games. "Ma'am, the tracker shows the device is within 20 feet of where we're standing right now. If you don't have it, then you wouldn't mind if I take a look around, would you?" There's this pause, this beautiful, trapped silence where you can practically hear Patricia's brain scrambling. Because if she refuses, she looks guilty. If she says yes, he finds it. Finally, fine. Look around. And when you don't find anything, I'm filing complaints against you and Sebastian for harassment and false reporting. Then I hear doors, footsteps, things being moved, and then Officer Martinez's voice goes calm and official like a judge delivering a sentence. "Ma'am, what is this roof rake doing in your garage?" And Patricia, oh my God, Patricia goes full panic. "That's mine. I bought that last month." "Then you won't mind if I check the handle for an engraving." Silence again. The kind of silence that convicts you before court does. "Ma'am," Officer Martinez says, "I'm looking at an engraving that says SJ and a phone number. That is Mr. Jennings's number." Patricia starts sputtering. "Someone planted that. This is a setup. He's out to get me." Officer Martinez cuts her off, firm now. "Ma'am, we also have video footage of you taking it from Mr. Jennings's property at approximately 7:17 this morning. You need to understand you are in serious trouble. You've committed theft, and you lied to a police officer. I strongly suggest you stop talking." Then he pulls the phone back out and says, "Mr. Jennings, I recovered your property. I need you to come here and identify it." I was already grabbing my keys. The drive was under 5 minutes. Meadowbrook Springs isn't big, maybe 200 houses. When I pull up to Patricia's place, there's the patrol car in her driveway, and there's Frank on the sidewalk with his dog, standing way too still to be walking. He gives me a thumbs up like we're at a sports game. Patricia's house looked exactly like you'd expect. Landscaping trimmed to geometric perfection. Driveway so clean it looked like it had been pressure washed by angels. Even the mailbox looked detailed. And by her front door, a little decorative sign that said Live, Laugh, Love, which in that moment felt less like decor and more like a threat. Officer Martinez meets me by the garage. Can you identify this as yours? My roof rake is leaning against the wall like it's innocent in all this. I point to the engraving. That's my initials. That's my number. That's my rake. Patricia is standing there with her arms crossed, face red, eyes darting like she's searching for an escape hatch. This is ridiculous, she snaps. You can't prove I took it. Someone could have planted it in my garage to frame me. Officer Martinez looks at her like she's a toddler explaining how the cookie got into her mouth by accident. Ma'am, we have you on video taking it. The GPS device showed it here for hours. Please stop making this worse. Patricia demands to see the video, so I pull it up on my phone and show her. Clear shot of her face, timestamp 7:17 a.m., her little sneaky look around, the whole thing. Her expression shifts fast, anger, disbelief, panic, and then something like resignation. I was confiscating it, she says, suddenly quieter. It was in violation of community standards. Exterior tools aren't supposed to be visible. And Officer Martinez, bless this man, says the words I wish someone had tattooed on the HOA bulletin board years ago. Ma'am, that's not how HOA rules work. You can issue fines. You can pursue legal action through proper channels. You cannot enter someone's property and take their belongings. That's theft. But I'm the HOA president, she says, like that's a magic spell. You have authority to issue notices, he replies. Not to seize property. That requires a court order. Then he turns to me. Mr. Jennings, do you want to press charges? And suddenly it's quiet in that driveway. Frank, stop pretending. Neighbors are peeking out. I recognize Susan Park from 2 streets over. The Robertsons, sweet elderly couple, are watching like they're at a parade. And I'm standing there thinking about the last 3 months. Trash can warnings, grass measured with a ruler, porch light complaints at 8 at night, and now this. Yes, I said. I want to press charges. Patricia's face drains like someone pulled the plug. Officer Martinez nods once, and then turns to her. Ma'am, you are under arrest for theft. Patricia actually says, you can't be serious. Over a rake? I know the mayor. I know the police chief. Officer Martinez doesn't even blink. Put your hands behind your back. And she tries to back away like handcuffs are optional. But eventually, because reality always wins, she complies. Seeing Patricia Cunningham, HOA president and neighborhood tyrant, getting walked to a patrol car in handcuffs, I don't know how to explain it without sounding petty, but it was like watching a storm cloud finally move away from your house. Frank is taking pictures like it's Bigfoot. At the station, I give my statement, hand over the footage, show the GPS logs. The officer taking the report isn't shocked at all. We get HOA complaints all the time, he says, but every now and then you get someone who thinks their position gives them legal authority. It doesn't. Private rules don't override criminal law. And that right there, that was the first moment I felt the lesson forming in my chest, like something heavy settling into place, because I realized how easy it is for people to confuse rules with rights. How quick someone with a tiny bit of power will start acting like it's unlimited, and how often the rest of us just let them, because we're tired or busy, or we don't want conflict. I leave the station with my roof raked back, feeling like I just lived through the weirdest episode of a show nobody would believe. When I get home, Frank is on my porch with a 6-pack and a grin. Tell me everything, he says. Also, half the neighborhood wants to throw you a party. You're basically folk hero status now. We sit there and I tell him how Patricia tried to claim someone planted the GPS tracker, and Frank laughs so hard he almost falls out of his chair. Then he leans in, lowering his voice like he's delivering classified intel. Emergency HOA meeting tomorrow night, he says. Carol, my wife, she's vice president. They're convening. Patricia's gonna get booted. And sure enough, the next night the community center is packed like it's a courtroom drama. Everyone's there. People I'd only waved at are suddenly my best friends. The board sits up front, 5 seats, and Patricia's seat is empty like a missing tooth. Carol Rodriguez, Frank's wife, calls it to order. She's a school principal, sensible, calm, the kind of woman you trust with a crisis. We all know why we're here, she says. Patricia Cunningham was arrested for theft. The board has voted unanimously to remove her from her position, effective immediately. The room erupts. Applause, cheers, the kind of release you hear when people have been holding their breath for years. Then, here comes the twist, the part one didn't expect. Carol continues, We've also been reviewing Patricia's enforcement history, and we discovered irregularities. Many violations she issued were not violations at all. She appears to have been making up rules, misusing codes, collecting fines improperly, and the room just shifts. You can feel it. This wasn't just Patricia stole a roof rake. This was bigger. This was her running the HOA like her personal kingdom. Susan Park stands up, furious. Does this mean I can get my tree back? The board flips through documents. Turns out Susan was fined $500 under a code that wasn't even about trees. Patricia literally used the wrong violation code. Then more hands go up. A couple fined for a backyard vegetable garden, even though the covenant only restricted front yard gardens. Someone fined for a political sign, even though the rules allowed it. Story after story. It was like the whole room finally realized something at the same time. Patricia wasn't just strict, she was abusing the system. And the system let her, because it was easier than fighting. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I moved in 3 months ago, and thought she was just picking on me. Turns out I walked into an entire neighborhood that had been slowly bullied into silence. After the meeting, Henry Morrison, one of the board members, actually stands up and says, Sebastian's here, and I want to apologize publicly. No one should have to put a GPS tracker in their tools to protect them from the HOA president. People applaud again, and I feel my face heat up. I didn't come for praise. I came because I was curious. But I won't lie, there was something satisfying about seeing all that fear finally crack. Over the next few weeks, the neighborhood changed. Like actually changed. Refunds went out. The board published a clear guide to the real covenants, not Patricia's personal fan fiction. Violation notices dropped. People started acting like they lived in their own homes again, instead of rental units under surveillance. I even got a formal apology letter plus refunds for every fine Patricia had slapped me with. Turns out my trash cans were always within the grace period. My hose color was never regulated. My wreath was allowed. She really had been making things up. Then her criminal case moved forward. She hired an expensive attorney, tried to argue it was a civil HOA dispute. The judge didn't buy it. Theft is theft, even if you do it while clutching bylaws and acting self-righteous. For months later, we're in court. I testify. The footage plays. The GPS logs show the blue dot at her house. Patricia's attorney tries to paint me as some vindictive mastermind who set her up. Like, yes, sir, I'm a criminal genius whose grand scheme involves a roof rake. Patricia takes the stand herself, which, no offense, was the legal equivalent of pouring gasoline on a fire. She claims she had authority to confiscate items for community aesthetics. The prosecutor, sharp, calm, asks, "Can you show where in the covenants it gives you authority to seize property?" Patricia flips through documents, can't find it, because it doesn't exist. And then the prosecutor gets her to admit it out loud. Yes, she took something that didn't belong to her from someone else's property without permission. The judge doesn't take long. Guilty. Class 1 misdemeanor theft. 2 weeks later at sentencing, she gets probation, community service, restitution, and counseling for what the judge calls authority and boundary issues. And when the judge says, being on an HOA board does not put you above the law, I swear the whole courtroom feels quieter, like everyone needed to hear that sentence, not just Patricia. She looked like she'd aged 10 years. 6 months after all that, Patricia and her husband sell their house and move away. Nevada, supposedly, fresh start where nobody knows your HOA resume includes a criminal conviction. And you know what, I felt a tiny bit bad. Not because she didn't deserve consequences, she did, but because it hit me how small the thing was that detonated her whole life. A roof rake. Not a diamond necklace. Not some desperate act to feed her kids. A tool. A stupid, expensive tool stolen because she couldn't stand the idea that someone didn't obey her. That's the lesson that stuck with me. Power doesn't always show up wearing a suit or carrying a badge. Sometimes it's a woman in a white visor with a clipboard, sitting on a board no one asked her to run, deciding that her preferences are law and daring anyone to challenge her. And maybe the real danger isn't just people like Patricia, it's how often the rest of us shrug and say, it's not worth it, until it becomes worth everything. The summer barbecue after she was gone was the best this neighborhood had ever had. No tense smiles. No whispered fears about violations. Kids running around, music playing, people actually talking like neighbors. Frank clinks his beer bottle against mine and goes, to roof rakes and GPS trackers, the most unlikely heroes in HOA history. I laughed and clinked back. to roof rakes and GPS trackers. Later that night, my phone buzzes with a tracker notification, and my heart jumps for half a second. Pure instinct. But it's just a low battery warning in my garage. The roof rake is still there, safe, right where it belongs, GPS still inside the handle, not because I'm scared anymore, but because it's a reminder. Sometimes justice shows up in the most ridiculous packaging: aluminum tubing, a tiny tracker, and a woman who finally pushed her fake authority one step too far. And here's the question that still messes with me a little: where's the line between standing up for yourself and going too far with revenge? Because if someone like Patricia ruins your peace for years, do they deserve mercy when you finally have the power to hit back? I want to hear what you think. Was pressing charges the right move, or should I have let it go and handled it within the HOA? And if you've ever dealt with an HOA bully, a power-tripping neighbor, or somebody who thought rules gave them ownership over your life, drop your story in the comments. Because I promise you, I'm not the only one who's had to learn the hard way that community standards don't mean a thing if nobody defends basic human boundaries.